every day, Monday up to Friday, we have the business quote of the day. Well, let's get inspired at this particular time. Well, that's the chairman of the UBA group that is in Nigeria. He says that the future that you want is the one that you make. So the future you wish for, you make it. So it's not just about wishing, that you have to make it work. So you have to get dirty, get your hands dirty if you have a sort of an impact. Now, away from that, heading into our business update here. Government says no new taxes in 2025 and 2026. Now the question is it a bold move or a missed opportunity? Well, let's see. Now, the State Minister of Finance, that is Henry Musasizi, has set the tone of Uganda's financial year, that is 2025 and 2026, with a declaration that the government will actually not introduce any new taxes. That is announced. This was announced at a social event, which was the giveaway ceremony of the businessman, that is Cyril Mugenyi's daughter in Kabale municipality. Now, the decision promises to focus on optimizing the existing tax revenues while tackling the systematic corruption. But of course, this does not signify a leap forward or a risk to Uganda's economic stability. Now, we all know very well that historically, Uganda's financial planning is actually leaned heavily on irregular tax amendments. Now, each year has seen about new tax policies that have actually been aimed at broadening the tax base, and we see that also, away from just broadening the tax base, but also closing the loopholes. Now, in 2024, for instance, the government introduced adjustments such as the revised income tax rates, stamp duty exemptions, and the value-added tax changes. Now, these amendments were actually designed to improve compliance and attract investment, and also met with a significant pushback, that is with business communities, citing increasing operation costs. Now, Musasi's announcement marks a clear shift in strategy, one that actually that banks on a better management of existing taxes rather than expanding the tax base, and it's a promise of continuity rather than change, but it's enough to address Uganda's economic challenges. Now, that's another question. Is it enough to address Uganda's economic challenges? Now, proponents of the no new tax policy urge that it can actually encourage economic stability and reduce the tax burden of business already reeling from inflation. Now, inflation has been a key factor here, and the global economic shocks. We can't also deny that, and the post-pandemic recovery process. Now, a World Bank report in 2023 highlighted how excessive tax amendments in Uganda often create uncertainty, deterring both local and foreign investment. Now, by maintaining the status quo, the government definitely seeks to foster an environment conducive for long-term business planning. Now, this is according to the statement that Minister Musasa said. He said that we believe that if we properly utilize the current taxes and reduce the corruption in agencies like the Uganda Revenue Authority, we will manage to operate without introducing new taxes. This is a statement from Musasa. Now, of course, there are some sort of skepticism as we see critiques. However, after hearing that, they question the partiality of relying on solely on a better tax utilization and anti-corruption tax measures. Now, Uganda's tax to GDP ratio is estimated at about 13%. It's estimated at 13%. That is in 2024, which lags behind the sub-Saharan Africa average of about 16%. Now, this ratio underscores systematic issues such as tax evasion, insufficient collection systems, and a significant informal sector that remains untaxed. And that is a big problem. Now, a report by the International Monetary Fund in 2022 warned that over-reliance on existing tax revenue without expanding the base risks structural deficits. That's according to the International Monetary Fund. And now in Uganda's case, where the public debt reached about 48% of GDP by 2024, we see that the decision not to introduce no taxes might actually exacerbate fiscal vulnerabilities, particularly if economic growth slows. Yeah, so we see that really, widening the tax base. But I think he has a point when he says that why should we increase the tax base when we haven't utilized the current taxes efficiently, like how we ought to utilize them? That is his point generally. Now, while the government decisions may alleviate the pressure that is on businesses, the ripple effect that is on the public services remain uncertain. Now, in rural Kiriandongo, where access to quality, to quality healthcare and education depends heavily on government funding, residents fear that maintaining the current revenue streams might actually not suffice. That's according to what they say. Now, one of them says that, this is Daniel, a teacher in the district. He said that we've seen projects stall because of funding gaps. That is what he said. Now, this is without revenue sources. He says, how will the government finance critical programs? Now, Musasa's emphasis on reducing corruption is both commendable and contagious because Transparency International's 2023 Corruption Perceptions Index ranked Uganda 142 out of 180 countries, highlighting what we call a persuasive corruption in public institutions. Now, agencies like the URA have faced allegations of bribery and inefficiency, issues that undermine the revenue collection efforts. Now, real progress definitely requires what we call systematic reforms, including digitizing the tax systems to reduce human innovation, and also strengthening oversight mechanisms and ensuring ensuring accountability that is for the public officials. Now, if we take a look at Kenya, Kenya's iTax platform offers a compelling case study. Now, by automating tax processes, Kenya actually increased compliance rates by about 24%. So it has worked out for Kenya, by digitization, automating tax processes. The report says that Kenya increased compliance rates by about 24% within 3 years. Now, Uganda's adoption of similar digital tools could actually yield comparable benefits, but of course, when it was done, majority of the traders were definitely striking. Not understanding. Thinking that effort is a tax, but not knowing that it's just a mechanism of collecting tax, but automated in some kind of a sort, if we were to say it that way. Now, Musasa still underscore the importance of revenue collection, that is in reducing reliance on borrowing. Now, Uganda's public debt, which stood at about 21 billion in 2024, has actually raised concerns about the debt sustainability. Now, the Ministry of Finance projects that a better tax utilization could actually curb the need for external loans, thereby easing debt servicing costs that currently consume about 30% of the national revenue. However, analysts still caution that reducing borrowing without expanding revenue streams might actually stifle economic growth. Now, investments in infrastructure, healthcare, and education often rely on borrowed funds. Now, striking the balance between the fiscal discipline and the developmental needs that are critical, if you look at it that way. Now, taking a look at in East Africa, countries like Rwanda offer what we call valuable insights with a tax to GDP ratio of about 16.4%. Now, Rwanda's focus on taxpayer education, simplified tax systems, and has actually enhanced compliance while fostering economic growth. So tax education, of course, it's done in Uganda, but it's not consistent. It's like if I go to church every Sunday and the preacher preaches the word of God to me every day, it should be the same way how tax education is done in Uganda, not just on casual basis, on certain times. It should be on everyday, weekly, or monthly. The traders need to be reminded that they need to pay the taxes. They need to be reminded that because it has worked out for Rwanda, and compliance rates have actually increased. Now, Uganda's decision to forego new taxes aligns with the global trends, most especially when it comes to emphasizing efficient resource utilization, yet implementing reforms that address local challenges, such as the informal sector, taxation, and corruption. Now, this will definitely determine its success. Now, for the average Ugandan, the no tax policy presents both hope and uncertainty, let me say that, because it signals the government is willing to listen to the business community's concerns and also raises questions about its ability to deliver on promises of accountability and efficient resource management. Now, will the government's renewed commitment that is on tackling corruption actually translate into tangible improvements? That is a question for us to look into for this year 2025. Of course, as I conclude this, I'll say that Minister Masasi's announcement definitely represents a significant shift in Uganda's fiscal policy that actually prioritizes accountability over new tax measures. While the approach has its merits, its success on the government's ability to address the long-standing issues such as corruption, tax evasion, and inefficiency, of course, stand to be tasted. They are facing a taste of time. So let's see how Uganda will embark onto this for the 2025 journey. Now, heading into other reports here, the government also is looking into borrowing more money. Into that, it's made in a bold move in the bond market. And the question is it an opportunity or is it a risk? Now, the Ugandan government has commenced the 2025 with an assertive entry that is into the domestic bond market, aiming to raise a substantial of about 990 billion, that is Ugandan shillings, in its first auction of the year. Now, this was overseen by the Bank of Uganda. Now, this auction offers 3 bond tenors, that is a 2-year bond, a 5-year bond, and a 15-year bond with interest rates at 13.5%, 14.25%, and 15.8% respectively. Now, this strategic move raises both opportunities and critical questions about the country's fiscal strategy, market dynamics, and implications for the ordinary Ugandans. Now, we need to understand this. Currently, we have what we call the primary market and the secondary market. Now, according to what we see here, the bonds, the interest rates have actually down. The interest rates are down because we see 13% for the 5-year bond and 14% for the 2-year bond and 15.8% for the 15 years bond. So, according to experts, they say that this secondary market is likely to attract more investors because the bonds, the interest rates are low. And we know that when the bond has a low interest rate, it's definitely cheaper. So I'll definitely go for that one. Me too, even if it's me. Now, considering this as we proceed along, now this strategic move raises both opportunities and critical questions about the country's fiscal strategy, market dynamics, and implications for ordinary Ugandans. Now, understanding this, the offering, a snapshot of the auction. Now, the government is offering a 2-year bond at 230 billion, 30 billion Ugandan shillings. That is about 62.3 million United States dollars. Now, this is at 13% interest rate, and it will be maturing in July 2026. Now, the 5-year bond, the government plans to collect 330 billion Ugandan shillings. This is worth 89.4 million United States dollars, and now this is at 14.25% interest. And now this is maturing in August 2029. And we have the 15-year bond, that is where the government is actually expecting to collect a lot of money. That is about 430 billion Ugandan shillings. That is 116.5 million United States dollars. And now this will be at 15.8% interest. But this, the 15-year bond, is definitely maturing in June 2039. Now, this auction also signals the government is continuing reliance on domestic borrowing, but also sets a stage for what could actually be defining, what could be a defining year for Uganda's debt market. So how is it really going to turn out like? Now, in October 2024, the 2-year bond carried an interest rate of about 15.75%, while the 5-year bond while the 5 and 15-year bonds were priced at 16% and 16.75% respectively. Now, the decision to lower the interest rates for the January 2025 auction may actually reflect the government's confidence in economic stability and its bid to ease the burden of domestic debt repayments. Yet we see that it raises questions whether is this optimism justified, or are the policymakers raising a potential mismatch with the market expectations? All that really is going to be looked into. Now, according to Ms. Cindy Hannah Kankonda, she's a chartered financial analyst at the ICA Lion. He views this as an attractive opportunity for investors. Higher interest rates definitely present an opportunity to buy the bonds at a discount, making them relatively cheaper. Now, she explained that she predicts the yields could actually raise further, as far as 17%, because the government is desperate to borrow the money. It's really urgent as we speak that. Now, by November 2024, the report says that domestic debt issuances for the 2024-2025 financial year reached 9.5 trillion Ugandan shillings, nearly half of the 15 trillion issued in the entire, that is 2023-2024 fiscal year. Now, of these, 50% went toward funding budget items, while the rest was actually used to refinance the public debt. Of course, lowering the interest rates may help reduce the government expectations. And we know that the bonds may require discounts to sell, complicating the issuance processes and all that. So let's wait and see how it's going to be like. But of course, the biggest fear is that if the government's main source of borrowing is internally, then what does it mean for the private sector when it comes to access to credit? Think about that. Well, let's go for the break. For now, I'm returning with entertainment. And just to brief you a little bit, we're going to be looking into the 2025 trends, music business trends that we anticipate in the entertainment business, what to watch out for, and how to position yourself definitely to be a part of these opportunities. Stick around.